Hi, this is Linda from No Frills ASMR. I was at the library and saw this book, and it's called The Facts on File Dictionary of Clichés, 3rd edition. And I just thought that might be fun to look at. So we'll find out. It says meanings and origins of thousands of terms and expressions. What do you guys think this one is? An elephant. Elephant in the room. An extremely obvious circumstance that can hardly be overlooked. Joe Bannister used it in Liars All. She hadn't told Patty how serious Jonathan's condition was, but it was like an elephant in the room. Okay. Sounds good. So we'll just kind of look through and see what we want to look at. Ace in the hole. Well, that's a poker phrase, right? A hidden advantage. In stud poker, the dealer gives each player a card face down called a hole card. From that point on, all other cards are dealt face up. Should the hole card be an ace, a high card, the player has an advantage unknown to his opponents. Stud poker was first introduced shortly after the Civil War and played mostly in what is now the Midwest, but then was the West. Oh, that's kind of interesting. In time, ace in the hole became Western slang for a hidden weapon, such as a gun carried in a shoulder holster. And by the early 1920s, it was used figuratively for any hidden leverage. The related ace up one's sleeve comes from the practice of dishonest gamblers who would hide a winning card in just this way. Interesting. One of my sons, him and his buddies, they play poker, and I heard a phrase that I was just telling him about that was new to me, and it was when you're kind of tight on money, you're getting close to the cloth. And I didn't really know what that means, but I think, and then I looked it up, and it means like for a poker player when their chips have gotten too close to the cloth. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So we'll see if that's in here. Let's see. The acid test, a conclusive trial to establish the truth or worth of something or someone. The term comes from a test long used to distinguish gold from copper or some other metal. Most corrosive acids do not affect gold, but a solution of nitric acid and hydrochloric acid dissolves the metal. Interesting. Let's see, what else? A dog's age, a long time, an American slang term dating from 1830. This expression doesn't make a great deal of sense since the average dog is not especially long-lived. It appeared in print in 1836. That blamed line gale has kept me in bilbos, such a dog's age. So a dog's age is a long time, but they say it doesn't make much sense. That's when we were in England, our cousin would say donkey's years. Like, I haven't done that in donkey's years, and that was the first I'd ever heard that. Let's see if donkey's years is in here. Not years. Or did she just make that up? No, here it is, donkey's years. A long time. The origin here is disputed. Some say it is a rhyming term for donkey's ears, which are quite long, and possibly also a punning allusion to the Cockney pronunciation of years as ears. Others believe it alludes to donkeys being quite long-lived. The expression dates only from the late 19th century. Edward Lucas used it in the Vermilion Box in 1916. Interesting. Well, there you go. All cats are gray after dark. It's funny that these are cliches, so that means they've been said so many times you're kind of like sick of hearing them. I thought that's what cliche. And a lot of these I've never heard. They're like very old cliches. All cats are gray after dark or at night. Without sufficient knowledge, one cannot distinguish between alternatives. Oh, I see. This assertion appeared in numerous proverb collections, beginning with John Hayward in 1546, where it was put, "When all candles be out, all cats be gray." Okay. All hell breaks loose. Chaos prevails. The expression crops up often in Elizabethan poetry and continued to be used by an amazing number of fine poets. So they just don't give us a lot of that. All one's ducks in a row, be completely prepared or well organized. This colloquialism from the second half of the 1900s alludes to lining up target ducks in a shooting gallery. Oh, yeah, okay. All other things being equal, given the same circumstances. This term began at the Latin phrase ceteris paribus. Sometimes the word all is omitted and else is substituted for other things, so all else being equal. Okay. All present and accounted for. I feel like we say that in my family a lot. Are we all present and accounted for? Everyone or everything is here. This cliche originated in the military as a response to roll call and actually is redundant. If one is present, one is also accounted for. The British version, all present and correct, where correct means in order, makes more sense, but did not cross the Atlantic. I've heard that a lot of those kind of things where the Americans say things different than the British, it was just because the Americans were so mad at the British after the Revolutionary War, and they just wanted to change all the sayings and everything enough so that they weren't sounding British anymore, but I don't know if that's true. I don't know. All's fair in love and war. Any tactic or strategy is permissible. The idea was expressed for centuries by numerous writers, from Chaucer to Maxwell Anderson. Modern versions sometimes add or substitute another enterprise, such as in love and war and politics, or in love and tennis. All's fair in love and tennis. All that glitters is not gold. Appearances can be deceiving. A proverbial saying since the late Middle Ages. It appears in numerous languages to this day. O. Henry wrote a story entitled The Gold That Glittered, and two other writers observed in addition that all isn't garbage that smells. Okay. Armed to the teeth, over-equipped, over-prepared to do battle. The phrase was popularized through a speech by English statesman Richard Cobden in 1849, in which he held that too much of Britain's wealth was devoted to armaments. Interesting. This is a cliche. Ask a silly, stupid question, and you'll get a silly, stupid answer. Don't you feel like that's like a meme? You see all them. A response to an unsatisfying answer or to one that is put down. Eric Partridge believed this 19th century retort evolved from the proverb, "Ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies." But the two cliches are not identical. Okay. Ass in a sling, to have or to get ones. To be in deep trouble. The ass referred to is not the animal, but the vulgar term for buttocks. The expression probably originated in the American South in the 19th century and is thought to refer to a kick in the buttocks so strong that the victim requires the kind of sling used to support an injured arm. The saying was common by about 1930. As the crow flies. By the most direct or shortest route, since crows normally fly straight to their food supply, this simile came into use as the shortest distance between 2 points. It originated in the late 18th century or even earlier. At loggerheads, to be at loggerheads, to disagree, dispute, or quarrel. A logger was a heavy wooden block, and one meaning of loggerhead is blockhead, a stupid person or a dolt. Possibly this meaning led to the phrase at loggerheads, with the idea that only dolts would engage in a quarrel. I say this at one fell swoop. A single operation, often a violent one. This term was coined by Shakespeare, who used the metaphor of a hell kite, probably a vulture, killing chickens for the murder of Macduff's wife and children. I didn't know that's where that came from. Darker than I thought. At wit's end. To be at one's wit's end. That's something a lot of moms. I'm at my wit's end. To be at a total loss, completely perplexed. Wits here means mental capacity or ability to think. The term was used by Chaucer and William Langland in the late 14th century and has been a cliche since the 18th century. At the drop of a hat, at once, without delay, it is thought to come from the practice of dropping or waving a hat at the starting signal for a race, fight, or other event. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I never thought about that one. The drop of a hat. I have an axe to grind. A selfish motive. Allegedly, this term comes from Cautionary Tale by Charles Minor, first published in 1810, about a boy persuaded to turn the grindstone for a man sharpening his axe. The work not only was difficult to do, but also made him late for school. Instead of praising the youngster, the man then scolded him for his truancy and told him to hurry to school. Wow. Other sources attribute it to a similar story recounted by Benjamin Franklin. Whichever its origin, the term was frequently used thereafter and apparently was a cliche by the mid-19th century. Baby boomer. One of approximately 77 million persons born during the 2 decades following the end of World War II, 1945. So you had to be born in 45, 55, before 65 to be a boomer. I'm not that old. I'm Gen X, the best. In 1951, a New York Post columnist, Sylvia Porter, is thought to have been the first to call the large post-war increase in births a boom. The return of veterans and the expansion of the economy with higher incomes are some of the factors accounting for the increase. Healthier and wealthier than previous generations, the baby boomers, though, to some extent rejected traditional values and embraced social and cultural change. Their identity as a group was indicated by Time magazine's choice of the baby boom generation as its 1966 Man of the Year. Aging baby boomers, so characterized after they reach the age of 40, are still named by this cliche. A June 13, 2010 article by Patricia Cohen in the New York Times said baby boomers have long been considered the generation that did not want to grow up, perpetual adolescents even as they become eligible for Social Security. Excuse me. I feel like it's weird because baby boomers are the hippie generation, but now they're looked at as like the staid, old-fashioned people, even though a lot of them aren't that way. It's like, it's so dumb to categorize people like into giant it's so stupid. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. Like the idea that any people just because they're the same age are all the same is just silly. It's silly. Back To give someone the back of one's hand. Do we need an explanation? I think we all. To show contempt, to insult. Here's the back of my hand to you, wrote Jonathan Swift, perhaps signifying a challenging farewell. Oh, okay. The back of the hand, of course, consists of knuckles, so the expression may have once meant a punch. Similarly, a backhanded compliment is actually malicious in intent. Ooh, I hate a backhanded compliment. What is this one? Always turns up like a bad penny. The unwanted or worthless object of, or person is sure to return. I'm having trouble talking. A proverb in several languages besides English. This expression dates from the days when coins had intrinsic worth, and a bad penny, or shilling, or crown, was one that was made of inferior metal or contained less metal than it should. The bane of one's existence. The agent of one's ruin or misery, a thorn in the flesh. The earliest meaning of the noun bane was murderer, and was so used in Beowulf. So Bane and Batman was murderer. A somewhat later meaning was poison, which survives as part of the names of various poisonous plants, such as henbane or wolfsbane. The current sense, an agent of ruin, dates from the late 1500s. Baptism of fire, one's first encounter with a severe ordeal or painful experience. The term is believed to come from the death of martyrs, especially those who were burned at the stake. Can you even imagine a worse way to die than to be burned at the stake? Oh, golly. In the 19th century, it acquired a more specific meaning in France, that is, the experience of a soldier's first battle. I feel like I'm reading this wrong. It was so used by Napoleon III in a letter describing his son's initiation into combat. I want to see that new movie, Napoleon. I wonder if it's any good. I think it's going to be streaming like really soon. Isn't it by the guy who did Gladiator? I loved Gladiator. I know that, like, in retrospect, people are like, oh, maybe it wasn't that good, but I loved it. When that came out, I watched it. I had the DVD, and it had the director's commentary and how they did all the scenes. I watched all of it. I watched it with director's commentary. I watched the behind the scenes. I was so into that movie. I thought it was awesome. Beat one's brains out. It's something I say, which I probably shouldn't. A more colloquial version of cudgel one's brains or rack one's brain meaning like them, to strain to remember something or solve a difficult problem. To beat one's brains out, yeah. To beat one's head against the wall. Been there, done that. I've had this experience and I'm bored with it. The implication of this relatively new and seemingly world-weary statement is, why bother to repeat something I've seen or done? However, it is also used as an expression of empathy, as in, you've offered to take care of the children for a week? Been there, done that. The phrase dates only from the early 1980s and at first referred to tourism and sightseeing, but soon was extended to just about any activity. Moreover, it became overused so quickly that it became a cliche virtually a decade and a half later. What is this one? Life is not all beer and Skittles. Life is not all fun and games. Skittles, a kind of bowling game played by throwing wooden discs at pins, was very popular in Great Britain, where drinking beer remains widespread form of recreation. I see you, Great Britain. I didn't know one of your recreations just drinking beer. Not here in the U.S. Pairing the two came about quite naturally in the 19th century. Dickens' Sam Weller assures Mr. Pickwick, who is about to enter a debtor's prison, that the prisoners enjoy themselves there. It's a regular holiday to them, all porter and Skittles. So porter and Skittles is beer. I thought they meant Skittles, like the little chewy fruit candy, but no. Behind the 8-ball, in a bad situation, bad luck. The term originated in the United States in the first half of the 1900s, comes from a form of pool in which all the balls must be pocketed in a certain order. The only exception is the number 8-ball, which is black. If another player touches the 8-ball, he or she is penalized. Therefore, if the 8-ball is in front of the ball one is trying to pocket, one is in a difficult position. Behind the 8-ball. I like that. I've heard that before, but I knew it was a pool term, but I didn't quite. To bite someone's head off, to respond angrily to a moderate or harmless request or remark. It appears to have replaced two earlier versions, to bite someone's nose off, which dates back to the 16th century, or to snap someone's head off, current in the 18th and 19th century. To bite the bullet, I think that comes from, this is my guess, from Civil War when they do surgery. Or like on the battlefield, they'd have to do quick surgery and they'd have the guy bite on a bullet to deal with the pain. That's my guess. To brace oneself against pain or a difficult experience. This expression is believed to come from the days when those wounded in battle had to be treated without anesthesia and were made to bite on a lead bullet to brace themselves against the pain of surgery. That would stink. Blood is thicker than water. Family ties mean more than friendship. The term is based on the idea that water evaporates without leaving a mark, whereas blood leaves a stain. It dates from the Middle Ages and appears figuratively, that is, implying the importance of blood relationship over all others, in John Ray's proverb collection of 1670. Wow, that goes way back. I still have my cold. But it's getting better. I think I'm almost better. Brownie points. To win brownie. Earn credits to one's good standing, advancement, or the like. The term comes from the system of awards used by the junior division of the Girl Scouts of America, called the Brownies. In the mid-20th century, it began to be applied figuratively to good deeds or worthy accomplishments in any area. Burn the midnight oil, to stay up late studying or working. The expression, which may well be as old as the first oil lamp, appeared in the English in the mid-17th century. It has been traced to a poem by Francis Quarles. We spend our... I won't do an Irish accent. We spend our midday sweat and midnight oil. We tire the night in thought, the day in toil. Oh, and midnight oil. I read it and didn't even hear myself read it. Yep. By hook or by crook, by any possible means. There is some disagreement as to the origin of the expression, which used to mean specifically by fair means or foul. That is legal or illegal. Oh, by hook or crook. Hook is legal, crook is illegal. Okay. cast one's bread upon the water, to invest one's time, money, or effort without expecting an immediate return or reward. The term comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. I know how to say that, I just can't remember. Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days, urging the congregation to give generously, for one day they would indeed be rewarded. A more modern example is cast your bread upon the waters, and it will come back to you buttered. I've never heard that. To cast pearls before swine, to offer something of value to those who cannot or will not appreciate it. The saying comes from Jesus' teaching as recorded in the Gospel of St. Matthew. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet. Catch 22. A situation in which one can't win because one is trapped by a paradox. The term arose in the 1961 novel of the same name by Joseph Heller. It refers to an Air Force rule whereby a pilot is considered insane if he continues to fly combat missions without asking for relief. But if he asks for relief, he is considered sane enough to continue flying. I've never heard that. The term was further popularized by motion picture and today is used to describe common dilemmas in civilian life. That's interesting. Catch someone with his pants down. To embarrass someone, to surprise someone when he is at a disadvantage. The term is American, and there are several theories about its origin. One holds that it comes from a husband catching another man with his wife. Another claims it refers to an enemy catching a soldier relieving himself. I think that's probably my guess. Charley horse, an intensely painful, sustained muscle spasm. Oh, they're terrible. Or cramp in the leg, most often the calf. Originally used from the late 1800s in baseball, where it resulted from excessive strain. The term was later applied not only to sports injuries, but other kinds of cramp. The origin of the name is not known, but probably it was first used by or for a player who limped like an old horse, Charlie being the name of either the player or the horse. It has become a cliche. A chip off the old block. An individual who closely resembles a parent in abilities, behavior, or appearance. Most often a son resembling his father. The analogy is to wood. That is, a chip consists of the same wood as the block from which it came. Yeah. See, once they say it, you're like, oh yeah, duh, that makes sense. But before I read it, I don't know. And dates back to ancient Greek times. Theocrates called it a chip of the old flint. The wood analogy appeared in several writings of the 17th century. There you go. A chip on one's shoulder, to have a quarrelsome, to be quarrelsome, to carry a grievance. The turn of phrase originated in 19th century America when, according to an article in Harper's Magazine, placing a chip on a man's shoulder and daring someone to knock it off was a provocation to fight. Fight. Clean as a whistle. Uh-oh, guys, I forgot to put a, hold on. Actually, I think I have a charge cord I can plug in real quick. Sorry about that. My phone battery is dying, but I just plugged it in, so hopefully it'll keep going. But if it cuts off, so be it. I guess I've already gone long enough. I think I've realized if I go beyond 30, then they stick commercials in the middle. So if I keep it below 30, I think it won't. And this is at 30, 26. So maybe we'll try going to 31 and see what happens. So we'll read these some more another day. Let me mark this page. I don't know, maybe that was a little boring anyway. I mean, I enjoy it. I always like looking at stuff like that. All right, well, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon.